raised by an artist. She's become a mathematician. She studied math and got a teaching degree from Dominguez Hills, Cal State Dominguez Hills in mathematics, and then has been teaching in Los Angeles for 10 years, and more recently teaches geometry here in San Francisco. She's also an artist, so it didn't all go to waste. And tonight she's going to be showing us her work, her collages, as well as her pen and marker drawings. Please welcome her.
Want me to get down there and do video?
No, I got it. Excuse me.
Thank you. Well, one thing I do is take hardware catalogs, industrial hardware catalogs, and cut them up and paste them on white paper. And so all the pieces are from the same catalog, so it's hard to sometimes tell it's collage, but it really is. So each arm of this is a dancer, is a separate piece of hardware collage. And I just love the gesture and the movement of the hardware pieces. I like to make women out of the hardware pieces, just kind of funny. So this is maybe a woman at the bar, kind of looking over at another woman, and she's looking at Andy. This woman in a long, glamorous dress with a cigarette, maybe from the 30s or 40s. You know, it's somewhat abstract, but there's kind of an image. This one's kind of sometimes the hardware pieces form themselves, so these two pieces come together, and I think this looks like a priest's robe and a hat, maybe with a cross, and this is a woman with a bonnet, and that piece he's holding looks like a baby crying, so it's kind of like a baptism, so there's water in the thing and a blanket, even though it's not really a baby's body, it's just, again, abstract. This is a guy having his portrait painted, so there's a painter with his beret and his palette, and the other guy sitting there with his top hat, his cigar, and legs crossed, and just the hardware pieces just formed this, so it's kind of funny. And this is the classic reclining nude. Reclining nude. So there she is with her arms stretched out, and legs crossed over, and some other parts. And what's interesting to me is she doesn't need a face or hair. You can just tell that's what it is. This is another weird one that just kind of formed itself. I don't know, it seems like kind of a woman, maybe with heels and a mini skirt, maybe a belly button piercing. Maybe she's a babysitter, and she's just looking after this toddler and kind of reaching. And again, the face is very abstract. It's not a real woman, yet it's feminine and childlike. This is a phase I experimented with coloring the hardware parts with colored pencils, and this is called Harajuku girls. And there was this phase in fashion for a while where the girls in Japan would wear these wild outfits, and so I kind of made them out of the hardware, and they have their hairdos with a streak in them, and the big kind of buns and chains and heels and things like that. This is kind of I don't know, humorous. I like to do something kind of humorous. It's kind of like maybe this old man with a stick chasing away this big bully kid with his funny hat on. But it looks like they're kind of looking at each other, but it looks like he's kind of yelling, and he's got a beard maybe, and he's just chasing him with a stick, and this kid's running off with his boots and his big hat. I like to challenge myself to try to make something maybe real, like a Santa. And so I went through the catalog and thought, could I actually pull off the fuzzy parts? And it worked. There was kind of a beard thing, and that thing at the top of his hat. I couldn't believe it. I just found it, and it's like, this is a piece of hardware, but it looks fluffy, so it worked out perfect. All right, this is the second part of my art thing that I do. It's made entirely of circles. Being a geometry teacher, I love circles. These were first created, I started doing these digitally, so this is in Photoshop. And people think, oh, the computer did it, but really, no. Every single dot is a circle, is a click of the mouse. Every circle is a click of the mouse. Wow. And so I had to go around and space it, and it does turn out uneven. I don't know if you can notice irregularities, but that's what kind of interests me, because it's not perfect. It's almost like people who painted mandalas or something, and they just kind of put a dapper of paint, and wherever it lands, it lands. I'm also very fascinated by lights. I love lights, and so this is kind of, I don't know, the idea of kind of walking at sunset in the fall, and everyone has those purple Halloween lights now, and I love that purple against the orange. So this is kind of inspired by that. Also in Photoshop, you can do layers where the circles are kind of translucent. So that's the idea of that. This was done for my dad, Ed Fella. He makes flyers every holiday with his crazy typography on one side, and he asked me to do the other side one year of just all these crazy circles, so I included it, which is kind of cool because it in Japan and things like that, because he's in all kinds of books. So I got this one in there. Okay, so now I decided, all right, since people think the computer does it, I will draw these by hand. So I use a circle template to help me. And I start in the center and make one single circle, and then add a circle and add a circle. And so it's all about the process. I have to just keep adding circles and circles and color them in by hand with markers. Here's another example of that. And I just keep going, and the piece forms itself. And it's almost like I can't mess up. In the computer, you can always backtrack and erase something. With these, I cannot. It's like I have to draw and color and draw and color. And if I mess up, the piece is over. It's almost like a performance. I'm done. I have to start over. So, and I like the dark background, so in that one I colored in the dark background. This is just another idea of circles, and it kind of is like dark, light, kind of mixed with things. And also, some of them finish off as a perfect circle, and some don't. They just go to infinity, and there's no conclusion at the end. So that's kind of the idea of that. Plus, I love markers. I have since I was a child. So now I finally get to use markers because they're so exciting to me. Here, I challenge myself to start in the corner instead of the center for once. I move outward from the corner, and then just start drawing. And it's somewhat symmetrical, a little bit here and there, but as you get way over to the other upper right-hand corner, it's not really symmetrical anymore. It's just kind of whatever, but it comes together. Here's an example where I kind of had some help from Photoshop, but the only way was I drew this all by hand, and then I put the color background in Photoshop. And I thought, oh, this way I'm not using up all the ink in my markers when I'm trying to color it in a dark color, because I love dark backgrounds. So this is a mix. So the circles are done by hand, and then that background is Photoshop. Now I finally bring them together. Collages and circles together. I could not find a way, but luckily the San Luis magazine found a way for me. So this is created for one of their articles, and it's Jack and the Beanstalk climbing up the stalk, and the circles are the clouds, and there's little circle leaves there, and so I plan to do more of that. This is an example of a piece on the left is the piece on paper that I colored and drew by hand and everything. When I put it behind the light, this is the image on the right. So this is in the sunlight. The sun comes through and makes the circles kind of, I don't know, I really like this. So this is my future, somehow doing circles and light behind them. So we'll see.